Hi, my name's Doc, and if you know me well enough, then you'll know that I began live streaming with a model, background, and streaming software all set up, and I didn't have to spend any extra money getting started. And the best part is, you can too! So in this beginner's guide, my goal is to get you oriented with everything you'll need to become a VTuber, and give you all the things you need to make an informed decision about what you want to be. But before we embark on your quest, we have some prerequisites. To get started on your wonderful streaming career as a virtual YouTuber, you'll need the following supplies: a decently modern computer, an internet connection. That's it. I'm not kidding, that's the bare minimum, though I will throw out some things that would be nice to have. You'll have a better time if you have a decently modern smartphone, a microphone, a capture card if you're a console gamer, and something that you can use to draw, be it a touchscreen laptop, a drawing tablet, or even just a good ol' iPad. Yes, as you can tell from the supplies list that I shot out, we're gonna get hands-on. And this brings us to the next part. How hands-on do you want to get? Because depending on what kind of model you want to make, you'll encounter completely different workflows and workloads. So now it's time I enlighten you on the types of VTuber models. You can separate VTuber models into 3 different kinds, and if you know anything about VTubers, you can probably rattle them off already, so go ahead, shout it out at your screen right now. That's right, the 3 kinds of VTuber models are the ones that turn you on, the ones that don't turn you on, and oh, wait, wrong list. The 3 kinds of VTuber models are PNGs, live 2D models, and 3D models, and they're all very distinct in how they appear and behave. PNGs are often just one static drawing or a set of drawings. That means all you'll need to be a pngtuber is at least one drawing of your character, which makes pngtubers the low difficulty option. It's very self-explanatory. The benefit of a PNGtuber is, like I said, it's easy and super low maintenance. During streaming, a PNGtuber can pretty much be considered the set it and forget it option. That being said though, you are very limited in the expressiveness department, and of course there's the enormous bottleneck of not being able to move. But what if you want to move? Well, live 2D models are the next step. The vast majority of VTubers, professionals included, use live 2D models. You're actually looking at a live 2D model right now. It's not to be confused with a 3D model because models like mine only move to give the illusion of 3D. Live 2D models are called that way because you're using a software called Live 2D Cubism to animate a drawing. Because animation is involved, it's safe to consider this the medium difficulty option. The benefit with Live 2D is that you can indeed move around. And not only that, if you end up developing some really slick skills with Live 2D, your models can become very, very expressive. Not only that, because Live 2D is animating a drawing, your art style that you draw in stays 100% intact in the model. The only problem is that because Live 2D is animating a flat image, your model can't exactly turn backwards, or let alone turn all that much to begin with. There's only so much you can do to make a flat image look 3D before it starts to look weird. And that brings us to 3D models, which are the only kind where the model is not derived from a flat drawing. Generally, when you work with 3D, you're always working from the ground up, even if you already have something like an illustration or a reference sheet. That being said though, the workflow will vary a lot depending on which software you use, which I'll get into later. Just in general though, if you want a distinct model that stands out, you should consider this the hard difficulty route. That being said though, 3D often pays off really well because you can use full body tracking if you have that. But even without full body tracking, a lot of face tracker apps also have support for hand tracking, so even with just the basic stuff, you're already getting more movement out of a 3D model compared to a live 2D model. That being said though, converting a 2D design into 3D accurately is not easy. Chances are, you're going to come out with a model that looks almost completely different from whatever your original design looks like. And here's where I'm going to get into specifics, so if you want to learn about the process of making one of these model types, here's the timestamps. But if you feel like watching all of these sections, then go right ahead. Now, important note before we move on, these are not tutorials. These are going to be overviews of the programs you need to use so you can get a better idea of the workflow and what to expect as you make your model. Now let's dig a little deeper into the rabbit hole. For making your PNGtuber, you're going to need some sort of painting app and a streaming software. Painting apps, I use a lot of them, but a good free one that I use is Krita. Optionally, you could also use a pngtuber app. If you decide to use a pngtuber app, your PNG can light up or change images when you speak. Some standalone pngtuber apps like vtubers run on their own, but there's also pngtuber apps that run inside of Discord, like React. And of course, you'll need a streaming app, which to most streamers will either be OBS or Streamlabs. The first step is to draw a pngtuber. The most basic way to do this is to just draw one picture of your character. Though if you want something more expressive, then you can have a set of 2 pictures, one with an open mouth and one with a closed mouth. Or optionally, you could also have a set of 4, 2 with open eyes and 2 with closed eyes to get your character to blink. In the scenario that you're not using a pngtuber app, you can just import and plop your PNG into the layout of your stream and bam, job done. But you're more likely to use a pngtuber app for that reactiveness. What happens in a pngtuber app is that you can import your images, and then it just kind of shows up in the window. What you do then is capture the app with your streaming app's screen capture, and for a transparent background, you should be able to change the app's background to green and add a chroma key to your streaming app. And that's the gist. Or rather, it might be more than the gist, cause that's actually more like a complete explanation. It's simple to set up, that's what I'm saying. Live 2D models, as I've mentioned earlier, requires the program Live 2D Cubism. But in addition to this, you're also going to need some sort of drawing program that's capable of saving in the PSD format. There's many programs that can do this, but my favorite one that's both free and Live 2D compatible in a sense is Krita. You'll also need a face tracker app that tracks your face and animates the VTuber. The most popular one is VTube Studio, and it's free. And of course, an app that allows you to live stream and record videos. Most choose either OBS or Streamlabs. Now let's see how you use these apps to get off the ground. Step 1 is to draw. That being said though, there is a specific technique to drawing for Live 2D. First things first, you need to draw your character facing forwards. Pretty simple. Second and more importantly, your model needs to be sliced, and here's what I mean. So here's my model. I had an example model made, but I lost the files to the model because I am really good at making backups. And if you look at all the layers, the general principle is that anything that moves on its own should be in its own layer. It's like this tuft of hair here, it's one layer. You go to the lips, and the top and bottom lips obviously move in different directions, so each of them get their own layers. That's what it's like. Then step 2 is to bring your illustration into Live 2D. Live 2D has a free version you can download off their website. The free version does have some limitations, but they aren't too horrible. It just restricts some extra tools, and your illustration size is also capped to 100 layers, among other things. That being said though, I doubt your first model is going to have more than 100 layers anyways. Once it's open in the editor, you're going to use the Live 2D editor's tools to give each body part some sort of movement. This is called rigging. Anything that's related to how each model moves and reacts to your face, physics included, is done here. The tools are pretty easy to understand. It's mostly a lot of clicking and dragging your body parts until they're the right shape. But it is time consuming, and if you really want to get that pixel perfect movement, you might want to expect spending at least a couple of weeks on and off in the editor. The cool thing about Live 2D is that because it's a 2-part workflow, that actually allows you to outsource one half of the work to someone else if you want. Though doing both parts yourself, like I did, is perfectly feasible. There's plenty of people online that can draw Live 2D ready illustrations, and plenty more people that can take your Live 2D ready illustration and rig it for you. Obviously this will cost some money, but you're going to be saving quite a bit of money just by doing half the work yourself. Once your model has all the movement you want programmed in, you're ready for step 3, which is to bring it into your face tracker. VTube Studio is the one that I use, and it has plenty of nice features like the ability to use your iPhone plugged in with USB as your face cam. There's also nifty stuff like pinning items to your model or changing the background or your scene. Most of the time, streamers will set their backgrounds to either a green screen or a transparent background because what you do is screen record the window with OBS or Streamlabs, or whatever live stream app you're using. There's plenty of awesome tutorials online for all the software that I mentioned, and Live 2D even published their own official tutorials as well, so go check those out. Alright, so 3D isn't exactly my specialty, and I'm only familiar with the basics to get started, which is what I'll be showing here. If I screw anything up, please correct me. Now 3D is a bit funky because you have 2 options you can choose for making your model. The easy route is going to be using Vroid Studio, which is pretty much specifically designed for making VTubers and VR avatars. Making models in Vroid can be quick and easy, and the model even has its animation data all built in automatically. However, unless you really mess with your model, it's going to look pretty much the same as every other Vroid, since quite a bit about Vroid is template based, like making a me. That being said, if you want to give your model a much more original appearance, then you're gonna have to start learning Blender. In Blender, you have to make your models from scratch, building shapes and stuff out of a cube, and unlike Vroid, your model isn't going to animate itself either. You're gonna have to rig the animation data into your model yourself, essentially by shoving virtual bones into the model and praying that your model isn't gonna freak out. Now let's get a closer look at what each program looks like on the inside. So here's the interface for Vroid, and right off the bat, you're already given a body to start out with. It already looks more like a traditional VTuber than I am. You'll use the sliders to change the proportions of your avatar. Once again, really similar to making a me. Probably the trickiest part about Vroid is painting on the hair. While you do have some templates to pick from, if you want to go custom with the hairstyle, you gotta hit the pencil button and paint the hair on. And yeah, it's a little janky, as you can probably see, but it's something that I can probably get used to if I spend a few weeks practicing. But overall, it's simple to get and you can achieve results fast too. Now here's the situation with Blender. There's no character sliders or templates or anything. You're given a cube, and you have to build all of your shapes together manually. Now, the last time I used Blender, I made models that look like this. So you probably got an idea of my skill level in Blender, aka not good enough to actually demonstrate modeling a character. I can't do everything. But if you think that you're after something that's a little different from a Vroid and you really want to put your art skills through their paces, then probably the best way to learn Blender is to watch Blender Guru's good old Blender tutorial and build your skills from there. That's how I got started anyhow. Regardless of the method you use to make your model though, your end product should be a VRM model. VRMs are models specifically designed for VR, but they're also the format used for VTuber apps. Most people on Windows I see using VCFace, but if you're a Mac user like me, there's a software called VCam, which you'll see right here. The process is just down to importing your model, and the model shows up and moves in the window. You can use your streaming app like OBS or Streamlabs to capture the window, and there's your character. So by this point, you probably have enough information to come to a decision about how you want to pursue your virtual dreams. While I don't have the tutorials for the software on my own channel, there's plenty of resources elsewhere on this site, and I guarantee there's some amazing tutorials for all the software that I mentioned here. If you thought this video was helpful, then please give it a like, and there's no harm in sharing this video too. My name's Doc, and this has been the ultimate zero budget VTuber beginner's guide. Thanks for tuning in.